The quantum encrypted message pulsed softly in the holographic display, its light casting shadows across the bridge of the Stellar Sentinel. 3,000 years of waiting. And now the ancient code had finally aligned with its designated timekey. First Officer Sarah Chen held her breath as the decryption protocols initiated, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmering data streams. Signal integrity at 98%. The ship's AI announced. Beginning historical reconstruction. The holographic display flickered, and then a woman materialized before them. Dr. Elena Martinez, her lab coat pristine despite the chaos visible through the windows behind her. Emergency lights painted her face in alternating patterns of red and white as she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's final moments. This is humanity's last transmission from Earth Station 1. She began, her hand steady as she typed commands into an unseen console. The orbital defense grid has failed. Their ships have breached the inner solar system. But this is not our end. The bridge crew watched in silence as distant explosions illuminated the scene. Captain James Rodriguez leaned forward, his weathered face tense. They had all grown up with stories of this day, passed down through generations, but seeing it was different. Project Starbridge is complete, Dr. Martinez continued, a fierce pride breaking through her professional demeanor. 47 colony ships have already jumped beyond their sensor range. Our people will survive. Our knowledge will endure. And we have encoded into the very fabric of space-time a promise that they cannot erase. The recording shuddered as something massive detonated nearby. Dr. Martinez never flinched. To those who will carry our legacy among the stars, we have left you everything you need. The quantum archives are scattered across 7 systems, each containing the sum of human knowledge. Find them, learn, grow, and remember. She pressed a final sequence of commands, and a string of coordinates flashed across the bottom of the recording. Sarah quickly confirmed they matched the encrypted data they had recovered from the quantum beacon last month. They thought they could end us with a single strike, Dr. Martinez said, her voice hardening. They were wrong. Humanity isn't bound to a single world anymore. We are in the stars now, in the spaces between, in the quantum realm itself. And when we return, and we will return, we will show them what humanity has become. The recording grew unstable as massive energy signatures began to build up behind her. Dr. Martinez smiled, a gesture of defiance and hope intertwined. This is Dr. Elena Martinez, Earth Station 1. To the future generations, make us proud. End transmission. The hologram faded, leaving the bridge in contemplative silence. Sarah noticed her hands were trembling and quickly steadied them. The coordinates were real. The quantum archives were real. Everything they had prepared for over countless generations was real. Plot a course to the first set of coordinates, Captain Rodriguez ordered, his voice cutting through the quiet. And begin decrypting the quantum archive's security protocols. Sarah turned to her station, fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The Stellar Sentinel's quantum drives hummed to life, preparing to bend space-time in ways their ancestors had only dreamed of. They had mastered technologies that the Zax Empire couldn't even comprehend, born from necessity, and 3 millennia of determination. As the ship prepared to jump, Sarah thought about Dr. Martinez and all those who had sacrificed everything to give humanity this second chance. They had encoded their knowledge into quantum particles, scattered them across the galaxy like seeds, and trusted future generations to fulfill their promise of return. Jump sequence initiated, the AI announced. Quantum fold in 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred around them as the Stellar Sentinel leaked across light years. Their journey of retribution had begun, but first, they would gather the fragments of their past. The Zax Empire would learn soon enough what humanity had become in the long night of exile. They were no longer refugees. They were the children of stars, and they had come to collect an ancient debt. Commander Jack Chen stood motionless before the quantum display, watching as ancient star charts overlaid with modern sensor data. The Stellar Sentinel had emerged from its quantum jump at the edge of what was once called the Carina Nebula. Now, after 3,000 years, the stellar nursery had transformed into a mature star cluster. Analysis complete, reported Dr. Maya Santos, her fingers moving through the holographic interface. The quantum archive's signature matches perfectly with the fourth brightest star in the cluster. Jack nodded, studying the stellar formations. His great-grandmother had been a keeper of the old maps, one of many who had memorized humanity's escape routes in case their digital records were ever compromised. She would spend hours teaching him about the stars, not as mere points of light, but as guardians of humanity's legacy. "Begin approach vector," he ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols." The stellar sentinel glided forward, its dark matter hull absorbing any radiation that might betray their presence. They had learned the art of invisible movement during their exile, becoming creatures of shadow and starlight. "Multiple signatures detected," Lieutenant Parker announced from the tactical station. "Long-range scans show 3 Zax mining vessels operating in the outer system." Jack felt his jaw tighten. Even here, in this distant corner of space, they found traces of their ancient enemy. The Zax ships were primitive compared to the stellar sentinel, still using the same basic technology that had destroyed Earth. They had grown complacent in their perceived victory. "Show me their patrol pattern," he commanded. A new overlay appeared, tracking the mining vessel's methodical movements through the system. Their predictable paths spoke of an empire that had forgotten the meaning of fear. That would change soon enough. "Commander," Dr. Santos called out, excitement coloring her voice. "I'm detecting quantum resonance from the target star. The archive is responding to our presence." The main display shifted, showing a massive stellar prominence erupting from the star's surface. But this was no natural phenomenon. The plasma moved with purpose, forming complex patterns that matched the encryption keys buried in Dr. Martinez's message. "By the void," Lieutenant Parker whispered. "They actually did it. They encoded data into the star's magnetic field." Jack allowed himself a small smile. The quantum archives were humanity's greatest achievement, vast databases stored within the very fabric of stellar matter. Their ancestors had transformed stars into libraries, preserving their knowledge in a form that could survive millennia. "Begin extraction sequence," he ordered. "Deploy the stellar harvesters." From the Sentinel's hull, 3 sleek probes emerged. They carried technology that would have seemed like magic to the humans of Earth, devices capable of reading information, encoded in stellar plasma, and converting it back into usable data. "First data streams incoming," Dr. Santos reported. "It's incredible. Medical knowledge, engineering principles, theoretical physics, and something else. Something hidden deeper in the signal." Jack moved to her station, watching as the ancient knowledge flowed across her screen. Among the technical data, he caught glimpses of personal messages, stories, and songs, the cultural heritage of a civilization that refused to die. "Commander," Lieutenant Parker interrupted. "The Zax vessels are adjusting course. The stellar activity has caught their attention." "Let them watch," Jack replied, his voice firm. "They've forgotten what humans are capable of. It's time they remembered." The stellar harvesters continued their work as the star pulsed with ancient knowledge. Soon, this cache of information would join others they had recovered, piecing together the legacy their ancestors had scattered across the galaxy. A legacy that would help them reclaim their homeworld. "Quantum archive retrieval at 60%, Dr. Santos announced. "Estimated time to completion, 15 minutes." Jack Chen watched the star dance with human-encoded light, carrying messages from 3,000 years ago. Soon, they would have everything they needed to begin the next phase of their return. The Zax Empire would learn that their greatest mistake hadn't been attacking Earth. It had been giving humanity time to evolve among the stars. The stellar sentinel emerged from its quantum fold at the edges of what was once called the Kuiper Belt. Through the main viewport, the distant sun appeared as a diminished star, its light partially obscured by massive orbital structures that humanity's ancient enemy had built during their 3-millennium occupation. Multiple ring structures detected around Earth's orbit, Lieutenant Parker reported, his voice tight with controlled anger. Preliminary analysis suggests they're using them as manufacturing centers. Commander Chen studied the tactical display, noting how the Zax Empire's mighty fleets had been reduced to scattered trading vessels. Where once their warships had dominated space with brutal efficiency, now merchant ships lazily traversed between the artificial rings, their defenses minimal. Interesting, Dr. Santos murmured, reviewing the sensor data. Their ships still use the same antimatter containment protocols from 3,000 years ago. No significant technological advancement detected. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, documenting every detail of their changed solar system. Mars had been stripped for resources, its surface carved into mining pits visible even from orbit. The asteroid belt had been entirely harvested, replaced by floating refineries that glowed with industrial activity. Intercepting local communications, Lieutenant Parker announced. Decoding now. The ship's quantum processors easily broke through the outdated encryption, and voices filled the bridge. The Zax language had evolved over 3 millennia, but the AI's linguistic algorithms quickly adapted, translating in real time. House Vextal demands immediate compensation for the loss of mining rights in Sector 7, one voice declared. The Council of Houses must address this violation of ancient treaties. House Cromar refuses to acknowledge Vextal authority over inherited territories. Another responded. The matter will be settled through traditional channels. Commander Chen's expression remained neutral, but his eyes gleamed with strategic possibility. Their empire has fractured into competing houses, he observed, fighting over the scraps of their conquest. Dr. Santos brought up a new analysis on the main screen. Commander, you need to see this. Earth's biosphere. It's completely transformed. They've converted the entire planet into a resource processing center. The oceans are gone, replaced by chemical refineries. The atmosphere is now optimized for their industrial processes. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. They had all known Earth would be changed, but the reality of its transformation struck deep. This was no longer the blue planet of their ancestral memories. It was an industrial shell, a monument to the Zax Empire's ruthless efficiency. What about the defense systems? Commander Chen asked, forcing himself to focus on the tactical situation. Minimal, Lieutenant Parker replied. They'd grown complacent. Most of their military installations are automated, running on systems that haven't been updated in centuries. Their quantum detection grid is. He paused, double-checking his readings. It's operating at 12% efficiency. They wouldn't detect our ships even if we dropped our stealth systems. Commander Chen stood, moving closer to the viewport. Somewhere beyond those artificial rings lay the cradle of humanity, unrecognizable but not forgotten. Their ancestors had encoded its coordinates into their DNA, passing the knowledge down through 3,000 years of exile. Begin full system scan, he ordered. I want to know every weakness, every gap in their security. Map their power distribution networks, their communication relays, their trade routes. Special focus on the relationships between these houses. Sir, Dr. Santos interrupted. I'm detecting something unusual in their communication patterns. Some of the younger houses, they're discussing humans. The bridge crew turned toward her station as she amplified the signal. They're debating historical accounts, she continued. Some of them believe their ancestors made a mistake. They're questioning the original decision to attack Earth. Commander Chen absorbed this information, his mind already calculating new possibilities. Their mission of retribution had anticipated a unified enemy. Instead, they found an empire crumbling under its own weight, divided by internal conflicts and haunted by its past decisions. Continue surveillance, he ordered. We have time now. Let's learn everything we can about what our ancient enemy has become. Saturn's rings shimmered with captured starlight, providing perfect cover for the Stellar Sentinel's stealth operations. The ship's dark matter hull bent light around its surface, while its quantum signature merged seamlessly with the background radiation of space. Trading vessel approaching, Lieutenant Parker announced, maintaining his watch at the tactical station. House Cromar Registry. Estimated pass within 50,000 kilometers. Commander Chen nodded, watching the lumbering cargo ship through the main viewport. Its hull bore the scars of centuries, patches upon patches marking generations of repairs. Begin passive scan. Let's see what they're carrying. Dr. Santos' fingers danced across her holographic interface as the ship's quantum sensors penetrated the trader's primitive shielding. Primarily processed metals from Mars, she reported. But there's something else. They're carrying artifacts. Earth artifacts. The bridge crew exchanged glances. This wasn't the first such shipment they'd detected over the past week of observation. House Cromar seemed particularly interested in collecting relics from humanity's destroyed homeworld. Bringing up cargo manifest, Dr. Santos continued. They're listing them as historical research materials. Destination is interesting. It's a private museum on one of Saturn's terraformed moons. Commander Chen moved to her station, studying the data. Show me the museum's details. The display shifted, revealing images of a massive structure built into the moon's surface. Its architecture was distinctly different from typical Zax designs, incorporating elements that seemed almost human in their inspiration. Cross-reference this with the communications we intercepted earlier, he ordered. Lieutenant Parker quickly compiled the data. Sir, this facility belongs to the same faction we heard questioning the ancient attacks. They're collecting human artifacts, studying our history, almost like they're trying to understand us. Or trying to preserve what's left of us, Dr. Santos added softly. Commander Chen considered this development. Operation Starlight had been designed as a reconnaissance mission, gathering intelligence before the main fleet's arrival. But these discoveries suggested complexities they hadn't anticipated. New contact, Lieutenant Parker announced suddenly. Small research vessel, emerging from the moon's far side. Their sensors are more advanced than the traders. Hold position. Commander Chen commanded. Let them pass. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the research vessel crossed their sector. The Stellar Sentinel's stealth systems, developed through centuries of innovation, easily masked their presence. But something about the research ship's scanning pattern seemed almost deliberate. Commander, Dr. Santos said, her voice thoughtful. Their scan frequency, it matches old human protocols. They're looking for us, or at least, they're looking for signs of human technology. Commander Chen leaned forward, intrigued. Show me their scan pattern. The tactical display highlighted the research vessel's methodical search grid. It was indeed following a pattern that would have been optimal for detecting Earth's pre-invasion spacecraft. A pattern that would be completely ineffective against modern human technology. But the intention was clear. They remember more than we thought, Commander Chen mused, and some of them are actively searching for signs of our survival. Sir, Lieutenant Parker interjected, the trader is beginning its descent to the moon. Should we follow? Commander Chen studied the tactical display for a long moment. Their mission parameters allowed for covert infiltration when necessary. And this museum, with its collection of human artifacts and its curious operators, warranted closer inspection. Prepare a stealth shuttle, he decided. Dr. Santos, you're with me. We're going to take a closer look at this museum. Lieutenant Parker, maintain the Sentinel's position and continue monitoring system traffic. As the shuttle bay prepared for launch, Commander Chen reviewed the museum's schematics one more time. 3,000 years ago, humanity had fled to the stars, leaving behind only ashes and ruins. Now, somehow, their artifacts were being preserved by the very species that had driven them away. The story of humanity's extinction, it seemed, had become more complex with time. And in that complexity, they might find opportunities they never expected. The museum's archive chamber hummed with ancient power systems as Commander Chen and Dr. Santos moved silently through the shadows. Their stealth suits adapted to the ambient lighting, rendering them nearly invisible to the facility's outdated security systems. These are original data crystals, Dr. Santos whispered, her quantum scanner hovering over a display case. Pre-invasion Zax technology. They're still active. Commander Chen approached the case, studying the crystalline structures within. Unlike modern quantum storage, these crystals held data in lattices of frozen light, beautiful but primitive compared to human achievements in data storage. "Can you access them?" he asked. Dr. Santos nodded, her fingers moving through the holographic interface of her scanner. "Their encryption is elementary by our standards. Initiating bypass now." The crystals pulsed with soft light as ancient data streams flowed into their quantum processors. The information was fragmented, degraded by time, but their AI systems quickly began reconstructing the original contents. "This is a military archive," Dr. Santos reported, her eyes widening as she read the translated text. "Strategic assessments of Earth's capabilities from before the invasion. Commander, you need to see this." The holographic display expanded, showing detailed analysis of human potential. The Zax military had been monitoring Earth for decades before the attack, watching human development with growing concern. "They didn't just fear our technology," Dr. Santos continued, scrolling through the data. "They detected something in our genetic structure, a latent capability for processing quantum information at the neural level. They predicted that within a few thousand years of space expansion, we would naturally evolve the ability to interface directly with the quantum realm." Commander Chen finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "They saw what we would become." Exactly. The invasion wasn't just about resources or territory. It was preventive. They saw humanity's potential and tried to stop it before it could manifest. Commander Chen touched the display, expanding a section showing human DNA analysis from 3,000 years ago. "Show me the comparison with modern human genetic scans." The display split, showing the dramatic changes that had occurred during humanity's exile among the stars. Centuries of living in deep space, exposure to cosmic radiation, and the harsh demands of survival had accelerated their evolution far beyond what the Zax had predicted. "The very thing they feared," Dr. Santos said softly. "They caused it to happen faster. The challenges of exile forced us to adapt, to evolve. We can now do naturally what they thought would take thousands more years of development." A sound from the corridor caused them both to freeze. Through the archive chamber's entrance, they could see a young Zax scholar moving between displays, studying the ancient artifacts with obvious fascination. "Look at how they document everything," Dr. Santos whispered, gesturing to the meticulous preservation systems. "They're not just collecting our past. They're trying to understand what they lost by destroying us." Commander Chen watched the scholar carefully transcribe details about a preserved piece of Earth technology. The young Zax's movements showed reverence, almost remorse, for what had been destroyed. "There's more," Dr. Santos said, returning to the data crystals. "Star charts. They mapped every possible direction the colony ships might have taken. They spent centuries searching for us, thinking they might have missed some survivors. And now we're back," Commander Chen murmured, "with capabilities they never imagined." The scholar in the next room began speaking softly into a recording device, describing the significance of each human artifact. The translation came through their suits' systems clearly. "These remnants remind us of our greatest mistake, the destruction of a species that might have become our greatest allies rather than our most feared enemy." Commander Chen and Dr. Santos exchanged glances. The mission was becoming more complex with each discovery. They had come seeking knowledge to fuel their retribution, but they were finding something else. Understanding of why their world was destroyed, and perhaps a path to something beyond mere revenge. "Download everything," Commander Chen ordered quietly. "The fleet needs to see this before we proceed with the next phase." The Stellar Sentinel's bridge hummed with anticipation as Commander Chen presented their findings to the holographic council of fleet admirals. The quantum encrypted transmission carried their discussion across light years instantaneously, a technology that would have seemed impossible to their ancestors. "The archive data confirms it," he reported, projecting the ancient Zax records. "They feared what we would become, so they struck first. But in doing so, They accelerated our evolution beyond their wildest predictions. Admiral Sarah Reynolds, commanding the hidden fleet at the edge of former Zach space, leaned forward in her projection. This changes our approach. The empire we return to destroy is already crumbling. Their technology has stagnated. Some of their own people question their past actions, which makes this the perfect moment to implement the Starchild protocol. Commander Chen responded, bringing up a new tactical display. We can demonstrate our power without firing a single shot. The council members studied the proposed plan. It was ambitious, a display of technological mastery that would announce humanity's return in a way impossible to ignore. Begin the sequence, Admiral Reynolds ordered after a moment of deliberation. Let them see what we've become. Commander Chen turned to Dr. Santos at the science station. Initialize the stellar resonance network. Across the solar system, hidden quantum beacons activated, each one a marvel of human engineering. They began to pulse in perfect synchronization, their energy reaching out to nearby stars. Network synchronized, Dr. Santos reported, beginning stellar manipulation sequence. Through the viewport, they watched as the nearest star's corona began to shift. The plasma flows, responding to quantum-level adjustments, changed their patterns. Similar changes were happening simultaneously across hundreds of stars, visible from every Zach's world and outpost. First message components forming. Lieutenant Parker announced from Tactical. The stellar lattice is stable. The stars themselves were becoming humanity's messengers. Their light, carefully modified through quantum manipulation, began to pulse in patterns that any advanced civilization would recognize as artificial. Message transmission beginning, Dr. Santos confirmed. Converting to Zach's standard language now. Across Zach's space, observers watched in awe as the stars themselves began to speak. The message, repeated in patterns of light that no natural phenomenon could create, was simple but profound. We have returned. We are not what we were. The stars themselves answer our call. On the stellar Sentinel's monitors, they watched as Zach's communications erupted with activity. Trading houses suspended their conflicts. Research stations redirected their sensors. The entire fragmented empire paused as they realized the impossible was happening. Multiple ships approaching Saturn's orbit, Lieutenant Parker reported. They're maintaining distance but scanning extensively. Commander Chen nodded. Let them scan. Let them see exactly how far beyond their technology we've evolved. The quantum beacons continued their work, each star in the network becoming part of humanity's grand announcement. It was a demonstration of power that the Zach's empire, even at its height, could never have achieved. Incoming transmission, Lieutenant Parker announced suddenly. It's from the museum on Saturn's moon. They're broadcasting on. This can't be right. They're using an ancient Earth frequency. Put it through, Commander Chen ordered. The voice that came through was that of a Zach scholar, speaking carefully in reconstructed human English. To those who command the stars, we have preserved what we could of your world. We have studied your past. We have learned from our ancestors' greatest mistake. We seek dialogue. Commander Chen looked at the tactical display, where dozens of Zach's ships now held position at a respectful distance. They had come expecting to find an empire ready for war. Instead, they found one divided between those clinging to old fears and those seeking redemption. Send a response, he ordered after consulting silently with the Admiral's Council. Tell them humanity has indeed returned, and we are ready to talk. The stars continued their carefully orchestrated dance, marking the beginning of a confrontation that might end very differently than anyone had expected. The neutral meeting point had been chosen with careful symbolism. A space station orbiting Jupiter, constructed in the ancient architectural style of Earth's lost cities. Commander Chen stood at the observation deck, watching as the Zach's diplomatic vessel approached. Its design was intentionally non-military, its hull bearing the combined marks of multiple houses. Their delegation is ready to board, Lieutenant Parker reported from his temporary security station. Quantum scans confirm they're carrying no weapons, just the artifacts they promised. Dr. Santos adjusted her display, monitoring the environmental systems. The station's atmosphere had been carefully calibrated to accommodate both species. The preservation chambers are prepared. If these artifacts are as fragile as they claim, we'll need to handle them with extreme care. The airlock cycled, and the Zax delegation entered. 5 of them, each wearing the distinctive colors of different houses. Their leader, a scholar named Venera, stepped forward with graceful movements that suggested age and wisdom. "We bring greetings," Venera spoke in perfect English, "and fragments of your world that we have preserved through the ages." The delegation carefully unsealed their preservation containers. Inside, protected by fields of suspended time, lay treasures from humanity's past. Books from the Library of Congress, seeds from Earth's last seed vault, artwork from museums, and most surprisingly, a vial of water from the Pacific Ocean, collected just before the invasion. "We have maintained these in secret," Venera explained, "passed down through generations of those who questioned the wisdom of our ancestors' actions. We knew that if any humans survived, these belongings should be returned." Commander Chen approached the displays, his expression carefully neutral. "You've preserved more than we expected." "Not nearly enough." Another delegate spoke up, younger, from House Cromarch. "We have spent centuries studying what was lost. The potential alliances, the shared discoveries that might have been. Our ancestors' fear robbed both our civilizations of greatness." Dr. Santos moved to examine the seed vault, her scanner hovering over its ancient containment field. "These are viable," she whispered in amazement. "They've maintained perfect stasis. With these, we could restore at least some of Earth's original ecosystem," Commander Chen finished. He turned to the Zax delegation. "You offer us fragments of our past. What do you seek in return?" Venera moved to the observation window, gazing out at Jupiter's swirling storms. "We seek to correct the greatest mistake in our history. The young houses of our people have voted. We offer our technology, our resources, and our labor to help restore Earth, to make it a living world again." The chamber fell silent. This was more than anyone in the human fleet had anticipated. Their plans for retribution had never considered the possibility of willing assistance in rebuilding what was lost. "And the older houses?" Commander Chen asked carefully. "Those who still cling to the ancient fears." "They have seen your mastery of the stars," the young Cromar delegate responded. "You could have destroyed us the moment you returned. Instead, you chose to announce yourselves, to demonstrate power without using it for destruction. This alone has caused many to reconsider their positions." Commander Chen shared a glance with Dr. Santos. The quantum archives they had recovered had shown them why Earth was destroyed. Now, they faced the choice their ancestors never had, the opportunity to build something new from the ashes of the past. "We will need to discuss this with our full council," Commander Chen said finally. "But first, show us everything you have preserved, every artifact, every record. Help us understand what remained after we fled to the stars." As the delegation began their presentation, Dr. Santos' sensors detected something remarkable. The quantum signatures of both species had begun to harmonize, suggesting that the Zax scholars' long study of humanity had changed them in subtle but profound ways. Perhaps, she realized, this was what real victory looked like, not the destruction of an enemy, but the transformation of both civilizations into something greater than either had been before. 3 months after the historic meeting at Jupiter, Earth's orbit buzzed with combined fleets of human and Zax vessels. The massive industrial rings were being carefully dismantled, their materials repurposed for the greatest restoration project in human history. Commander Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Orbital Command Center, watching as swarms of quantum-guided drones began the delicate process of rebuilding Earth's atmosphere. Beside him, Venera studied holographic projections showing the progress of their joint efforts. "The deep core restoration is proceeding ahead of schedule," the Zax scholar reported. "The preserved ocean water samples have provided the exact molecular template we needed. The first artificial aquifer should be ready within days." Below them, the planet's surface was already showing signs of change. Specialized terraforming ships, combining human quantum engineering with Zach's industrial expertise, worked tirelessly to cleanse the soil of 3,000 years of industrial waste. The seed vault integration is complete, Dr. Santos announced as she entered the observation deck. The first test plots are showing strong growth in the restored soil. The plants remember Earth, even after all this time. Commander Chen nodded, remembering the moment when the first green shoots had broken through the restored Earth. It had brought tears to the eyes of both human and Zach's observers, a symbol of hope neither side had expected to find. The stellar engineering network is ready for Phase 2, Lieutenant Parker reported from his station. Combined fleets are in position. This was the moment they had prepared for. Using humanity's mastery of stellar manipulation and the Zax's vast industrial knowledge, they were about to attempt something unprecedented. Begin the sequence, Commander Chen ordered. Across the solar system, quantum beacons activated once again. But this time, instead of carrying messages, they began to shape solar energy itself. Carefully controlled stellar winds from the sun swept through space, carrying precisely engineered particles toward Earth's recovering atmosphere. Atmospheric seeding at 15%, Dr. Santos reported. The magnetic field is responding exactly as predicted. Through the viewport, they could see the first hints of blue beginning to tinge the planet's atmosphere. It wasn't the same blue that had been lost 3,000 years ago. This was something new, born from the combined efforts of two civilizations that had once been enemies. We found something in the latest archive recovery, Venera said quietly, watching the transformation below. A message left by our ancestors, warning future generations about the price of fear. They knew, even then, that they had made a terrible mistake. Commander Chen turned to the Zach scholar, and now we have a chance to correct that mistake. Not by erasing the past, but by building something new from it. The observation deck filled with other project leaders, humans and Zachs working together, each bringing their unique perspectives and technologies to the monumental task of planetary restoration. The revenge that had driven humanity for 3,000 years had transformed into something far more powerful, the opportunity to create rather than destroy. First cloud formations detected, Dr. Santos announced, her voice filled with wonder. They're following the predicted patterns. We're going to have rain, real rain, within the week. Commander Chen touched the window, remembering the stories his great-grandmother had told him of Earth's oceans and skies. They weren't just restoring a planet. They were healing a wound that had scarred both civilizations. The New Dawn project is more than just planetary restoration, he addressed the gathered leaders. It's proof that even the deepest wounds can heal, that fear can be overcome by understanding, and that the future doesn't have to be bound by the mistakes of the past. As if in response to his words, the first natural lightning storm in 3 millennia flickered through Earth's newborn atmosphere. Below, in the test plots of restored soil, the ancient seeds continued to grow, reaching toward a sky that their kind hadn't seen in 3,000 years. Humanity had returned to Earth not as conquerors or avengers, but as creators. And in doing so, they had achieved a victory far greater than revenge could ever offer.